to introduce Rabbi Elliot Mathias. Rabbi Elliot is a Talmud of Aish Torah, was done well. What do I mean by that? He learned here in yeshiva seriously for a number of years, and all of the Torah with the Yiras Shamayim, and of course with the special mission of Aish Torah bouncing off the walls. And Reb Noach constantly reminding us that we have an obligation to Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Elliot took this very seriously, as we all should, and decided that a pressing need was to do something for Israel advocacy. And we know that Israel does not represent itself too well in the international arena. It's not doing too well. And that's not because right is not on its side. Right is on its side, but we're not represented well. We don't have the right people speaking for us. Elliot took this in hand and started what is called Hasbara fellowships, wherein people from the major universities in the United States and Canada, please correct me if there are other places as well, they prepare. They do some homework, they do preparation, and then they come here for intensive training, and then they go back to their respective college campuses, and they are the rallying points for the Jewish students to realize that they have something to say, there are answers, and we can stand up proud and defend ourselves. Because indeed, the cause of the Jewish people here in Eretz Yisrael and all over the world is a correct cause. But Israel wasn't doing this well, and it took Rabbi Elliot Mathias, trained by Aish Torah, with his will to go out and do something and make a difference, to start this Hasbara fellowships, and now there are thousands of students and graduates that represent the true cause of the Jewish people in the world. Without further ado, let's hear from Rabbi Elliot Mathias.
Okay, thank you very much, Rav Gil. It's great to be here. I was looking right over there. That was my Makim Kubu up here. So one next to you, that table right there. I feel like I grew up in Aish Torah. I'm from Chicago originally. I think I was I think it even stopped before me when people just started still being picked up at the Kotel and being brought to Aish Torah. That was even before my time, but I was one of the last people that sort of was wandering around. I came, after I graduated university, I was going to go travel around in South America, and my parents said to me, why don't you at least go to Israel? His famous last words. So that was the shara we made. I would come to Israel, and I was here for a couple months, traveling around, seeing all the different sites. I decided I wanted to learn Hebrew. If I was going to be in Israel, I needed to learn a little bit of Hebrew. I was in the old city, and I walked into an office. There was a yellow sign that said Student Information Center. And it was Jeff Seidel. It was Jeff Seidel's office. I had no idea where it was. I said, I'm looking for a place where I can learn a little Hebrew. I don't know anything. It has to be, as cheap as possible. I said, I know the place for you. And he brought me over to Aish Torah, which they actually did have an Ulpan. At Essentials, I don't know if they still do. At Essentials, there was an Ulpan an hour a day. And I took the Ulpan, and then after a few days I noticed, which I think got a lot of people to stay at Aish, was that there was lunch. Right? So I stayed for lunch. I said, can I stay for lunch? So you can stay for lunch, but you have to come for another class. So the class before lunch at that time, I don't know if it still is, was Rav Mati Burger, right? And I sat in a class with Rav Mati. I sat in a class with Rav Ari Khan. And I had no idea what they were talking about, but I knew that I needed to stay and learn a little bit more. I was asked, I say for me also, it's just amazing to be here, because not only, I feel like I was born here, certainly spiritually, and I spent years learning here, But now I'm here with my family. After this, I'm actually going to get to fill in for my oldest son, who's about to have his bar mitzvah. So it's very, personally, a really powerful thing to be here and to be able to speak a little bit. I was asked to talk a little bit about my time here, what I learned from Rav Noach, being around Rav Noach, how that influenced me to get more involved in doing what I'm doing. So I'll try to share a few things in that regard. I will say, when Nachum asked me to speak, so I asked him, maybe I'll say some things people have heard before. I'm sure you've heard other things, ideas that Rabbi Noach would share. I heard it from other different people. He said, okay, it's okay if people share it again. It reminded me once, Rabbi Noach used to always, one of the mantras, and it was one of the first things I heard him say, he'd always talk about, how Hashem loves you. Hashem loves you. I remember actually, just popped in my head, I think the last time I was with Rabbi Noach, and he was very sick. And I was here with my family, and my wife and I went to go see him. And we went to visit him at the apartment he was staying in, and he was very sick, and he did not look well. And he was watching on the computer. It's an amazing thing. I'm not sure. He was watching on the computer a video. His son was showing it to him about the stars and about the astrology and all just the Pella of the universe, and he was just watching it just to soak it in. He's like, wow, can you believe this? And then he was not well, and he sort of looked at my wife and I, and he sort of noticed we were there, and he said, you know how much the Almighty loves you? You know how much the Almighty loves you? That was probably the 100th time I heard Rabbi Noach say that to me, and I remember once he gave a shmooze, and that was the point of his shmooze, was, the Almighty loves you. And someone asked, Rabbi Noach, we've heard you say this a few times. You probably have some other material, they keep saying it. The Almighty loves you. He said, it was obvious. He said, once you guys finally listen to me, I don't have to say it anymore, right? When you finally get it, I don't have to say it anymore. So there's certain klalim, certain yesodos say that I think I had discussed, and we all discussed that we can keep learning Rav Noach's Torah that came out of my experience with him that I wanted to share a little bit. When I first came to Aish Torah and I first got to meet Rav Noach, I remember he actually taught in Essentials, and the first class I heard him give was a class called 5 Levels of Pleasure, which I hope everyone's heard. 5 Levels of Pleasure, amazing class, gets you to look at, I think, life differently, Torah differently, but for me, the first klal of that class, which I think still today I find for myself, when I look at Yiddishkeit, is probably the most important klal. It just got me to look at everything differently. And I will say also now out there, quote unquote, in the field, whatever that means, and dealing with people and I'm from people, trying to connect with them, inspire them, teach them, I think this might be the one idea that I think changes people's perspectives more than anything. And it was the simple idea that there's nothing that we can do for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. When you start to define what God is, right, and what God is not, and ultimately come to the clarity that the really only way that we can define God, so to speak, is that He's infinite. He's beyond time and space. He's beyond anything. He can't change. Nothing in this world that we can do for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And then the question becomes, if that's true, if there's nothing we can do for Hashem, then why do we have Torah? Why do we have mitzvahs? Does Hashem need our mitzvahs? Does He need us to do these things? And if the obvious answer is, if we can't do anything for Him, why do we have Torah? Why do we have mitzvahs? That it's not for Him, it's for us. And to me, that was such a seismic change in how to look at being a Jew, to look at Torah. And I see over and over when that clicks for people, when they see, oh, you mean, it's not that I'm doing this to sacrifice. I'm not doing this because, God or someone else is telling me that I should do this, and if I don't do it, that I should feel guilty. But actually, that everything the Torah is telling me, that every mitzvah is really actually for me to grow, for me to get more pleasure in life, for me to have more meaning in life, for me to connect more to reality. Wow, that was an idea. I think it was really the first idea that I heard from Rabbi Noach that I would say has really been something that I try to teach my children, that I try to teach students, that I've seen over and over again completely changes and revolutionizes the way people look at Torah. I'm sure you've heard this, but one of the things about Rabbi Noach that was just so powerful was that he was just so real with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's one thing that, when you daven, I'm sure we've all had this experience, when you're davening and you feel that connection, and you feel like a Kadosh Baruch Hu's listening to you, and you're really, you feel in that groove, right? And you feel that connection. But then, davening's over, and it's time for lunch, or it's time for this, or it's time for that, and it's hard to live with it. But Rabbi Elliot was so real that I remember, again, this is one of the classes that he would talk about in prayer. And I remember saying this idea, and again, it just hit me. Wow, this person really believes. He really knows that there's an Almighty. Where he said, if your prayers don't come true, you should be surprised. If you really believe that there's someone, Kadosh Baruch Hu is listening to you, and you really believe that He's the Almighty, that He can do anything, can snap His fingers, and anything can happen, and you really have done somewhat of a cheshbon nefesh, that you feel what you're asking for is something that's good, of course He should give it to you. If He doesn't give it to you, you should be asking the question, why am I not getting it? And yet, I know for myself, I daven for things, I ask for things, and then I go on, if they happen, they don't happen, do I think about it, do I ask why they're not happening? Not always do I go through those next steps, but someone who's really real with the Almighty, right? Someone who's really real. If you go to a boss, right, and you ask for a raise, and the boss says no, you go, okay, go on. You think about why it bothers you, trying to figure out how do I do better now in order to get the raise, right? That should be if we were really real with the Almighty, we would have that same back and forth when it comes to our tefillas. And so to me, this was sort of this first, my first interaction with Rabbi Elliot was this idea of just how real he was with Torah and mitzvahs. We should be surprised if our tefillas aren't answered. The Torah is for us, it's not for a Kadosh Baruch Hu. These ideas were things that I look at and I still see now are the basis of my hashkafa, of how I look at life and how I look at Torah. His seriousness about Torah also, I remember, I don't know if this is just reminiscing or if this will be helpful to everyone, I'm sure Rabbi Gil remembers this. He used to always talk about the Taryag mitzvah. That, I remember him once saying, literally if an alien came down and, you can imagine, NASA and CNN and, aliens, it would be, the whole world would stop. And he came and they gave us a list, of 10 things, or 50 things, of 100 things that came from this, being from outer space. Imagine, the time and energy that, like I said, the governments and the universities and every person would want to know every single detail. Wow, what did they say? What came down? It's from another world, right? You say, here we have a Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us 613 mitzvah. He gave us Taryag mitzvah, right? 613 might sound like a lot, but when you think about it, Almighty gave us 613 mitzvah. Do we know those mitzvah? Are we just on the simplest level, right? Forget about the depths that we can go into it, but Rabbi would say literally, you should know the mitzvah. You should be able to walk around. He would tell us, memorize the mitzvah, right? When you're walking to the bus, and you're walking wherever it is, you should go through the Taryag mitzvah in your head. And I remember there was a group of us who did it, and we spent a few weeks, and we were memorizing it and testing each other. And we went to Rabbi Elliot, and we memorized it. He tested us on certain things, and that was the first time that Rabbi Elliot slapped me. Slapped me in the face, which was a love tap. People, it happened one other time, I will tell you. And he really, it was it's on a very superficial level, obviously, just to know the 613 mitzvahs, but to him, I think it meant you're taking Hashem's Torah seriously. How could there be a mitzvah that you don't know, right? That you don't realize it's even just a mitzvah from the Kadosh Baruch Hu that you're not living with, and that being real with Torah, and again telling us that we have a responsibility to know the Torah, right? That we really can know Kol Torah Kula. That there's a responsibility to know all the Torah. It's not just let me take a little piece. Okay, that's Hashem's Torah, but that's not for me. No. In a certain level, we can learn the whole thing. He was very big on learning the Rambam. Right? I'm sure people have heard that, and learning the Mishnah Torah, because even though we don't always paskin like the Rambam, even though the Rambam's obviously only one Rishon, but the Rambam put the Torah together, the Torah Sheba'al Peh together, where a person really can go from A to Z and at least know, right, at least from one day, the entire Torah, right? So he's very big on that because to him, again, it was Hashem's Torah. He was real with it. And I think also part of it was that he wanted us to really believe that we could accomplish it, that we could do it, right? And I think that was maybe the second I mentioned before the idea that, the Torah it's for us. It's not, you can't do anything for Hasbara, it's for us. The second, I think, sort of life-changing hashkafa that for me, that I still always think about, and it came with this idea that we could really know all the Torah, was this idea that he would talk about how the Almighty can do anything, right? The Almighty can snap his fingers and can make you a billionaire. The Almighty created the world. There's nothing else that he can't do. Someone's sick, someone wants to accomplish. For the Almighty, it's nothing, right? So once we realize that it's the Almighty doing, and we dive into Hashem, and we feel that the Almighty is helping us do the right thing, there's nothing that we can't do. For me to say that I can't do something, right? That's right, that's about a Zara. Because really I'm saying it's me, it's not the Almighty. The Almighty, right? Again, if your prayers aren't answered, you have to ask why. But at the end of the day, if I'm really trying to help the Jewish people, if I'm trying to do the right thing, if I'm trying to do Torah, if I'm trying to do mitzvah, if I do the cheshbon nefesh to know that I'm doing the right thing, then everything's in the bag. Almighty can do anything, right? And so this was this feeling that, what do you mean I can't learn the entire Torah? Does Hashem want me to learn the entire Torah? Of course Hashem wants me to learn the entire Torah. So what does it mean that I can't do it? What does that mean I can't? It means that I'm not really being real with the Almighty. Okay, yes, I have to put in the time and the energy, and I have to, again, do a cheshbon of where my priorities are. But at the end of the day, of course, I can do it. Say that it's impossible. I know, again, it's just an example, but someone who I know, where I live in New Jersey, and he said to me once, not all the time, but I do. I speak on Shabbos, teach classes, whatever. Came up to me once, you get up and you speak. I could never do that. I could never get up and teach, right? I said to him, what do you mean you can never get up and teach? You think does the Almighty want you to share Torah with other people? Yeah, I think he does. So what do you mean you can't do it? And I explained it's idol worship. It's putting yourself in front of the Almighty. You're saying it's you and not the Almighty. And this was this feeling that we could accomplish anything. And I think this really, that klal is what sort of then went to the next level, which is helping the Jewish people. The other, story that, or mashal that Rabbi Noach would always give is the idea of if a father, and again, hopefully you've heard this, if not, to me, I remember, I was even in Aish for a while, but I remember we went to Poland one time. Rabbi Noach took 60 rabbis to Poland, and it was even, I don't know, maybe it was the first time I heard it, but the first time it really hit me. He gave the mashal of if there was a father whose son was drowning. Right, have you heard this mashal before? Yes, I see some people shaking their heads. There's a father who saw their son was drowning, right? And someone came running up to save the boy that was drowning and said to the father, just give me some rope to save your son, right? And the father had the rope. Is there any chashash that the father's not going to give the rope to the person to save his son? Of course, it's not a question. So Noach said that's the right. If we ask a Kaddish, if we're trying to save the Jewish people, if we're trying to help Jews, literally saving them from drowning, if we're trying to give them Torah, if we're trying to bring them closer to the Almighty, and we ask the Almighty for help, we ask him just for a little rope, is there a question that he's not going to give it to us? Of course he is. And so that was part of this idea. Of course we can accomplish this. Of course we can do this. Of course we can bring Jews closer. Of course we can take responsibility and make a difference for the Jewish people. Because if we're doing the right thing and we ask the Kadosh Baruch Hu for help, there's not a question that it can happen. So I'll just tell you in the last few minutes a little bit about what I do and how this factored in. Really, I think is how it started, because maybe it makes some of these hashkafas practical. So I was sitting as a bacher, sitting here in the year 2000, and if anyone was here in Eretz Yisrael in 2000 or remembers 2000, is when the Intifada started. And it was a pretty wild time, if anyone was here, especially sitting here in Aish Torah. People remember it was right before Rosh Hashanah, and Ariel Sharon at the time went up on the Har HaBayit and started chaos. And I mean, literally sitting here, it was like watching CNN out the window here at Aish Torah of helicopters and, taking soldiers out on stretchers and stones being thrown. It was a very crazy time. And Rabbi Noach got up in front of the yeshiva and he said, Israel's at war, right? Israel's at war. And he looked at us and he said, what are you guys doing about it? What do you mean, what are we doing about it? We're a bunch of yeshiva bachers. What do you mean? Well, most of us are from America, England. What do you mean, what are we doing about it? And he said, every day you should spend a half hour thinking about how you can help Klal Yisrael, how you can help Israel, how you can help the Jewish people. If you come up with an idea, okay, let's talk, right? Let's figure out how to do it. If you don't have an idea, okay, sit and learn. That's what you're supposed to be doing here. But every day you should be thinking about, what are the problems that Jewish people are facing? How can I make a difference? What's the solution that maybe I can come up with? And at that moment, it was clear that the issue that Jewish people are facing, we were seeing it right in front of us. Jews were being killed. Jews were being murdered because they were Jews in Eretz Yisrael. He said we should be thinking about that. That's a message from the Almighty. How can we deal with it? So to make a long story short, a few guys in the yeshiva had the idea that we should go to America and we should reach out to Jews there and tell them about what was really happening in Eretz Yisrael. The media was against Israel. People were telling people how terrible Israel was. And like Rabbi Gil said, for so many Jews, they don't know the reality that's going on here. And I'm sure many people realize this, but I see it every day, that for so many assimilated Jews, what's the only part of their Jewish identity that they still connect to? It's Israel, right? Why? They see it in the news, or they've been on birthright, or they have family here. It's the last string that their Jewish identity is dangling from for so many of them. And when Israel is continually being bashed, and people are saying that Israel is this immoral monster, that Israel is killing babies, that Israel, is racist, Israel's apartheid, all these things, for so many people, that only part of their Jewish identity, they say, I don't want anything to do with that. It pushes them either farther away. So we said, you know what? Let's go speak to young Jews in America and campuses and tell them what's really going on. And Aish, Torah, Rabbi Cooper Smith, they said, yeah. Go. They sent us. We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't know where we were going. Sounds crazy to some of you probably, but the internet was just starting. We didn't even have barely the internet or whatever. We were calling Hillels and APAC chapters, and we went on this tour, and probably we maybe impacted 5 or 10 people, but who we really impacted was ourselves, because first of all, we said we want to do something. Aish said, we'll support you to go do it. And we had to come up with a strategy. We had to think about what would be effective. We had to figure out where to go, and we went. And came back, and a little bit after that, someone at Aish Torah had a meeting with the Foreign Ministry of Israel. And to tell them about different things Aish was doing in order to help Israel. There was other things people were doing, monitoring the media or whatever it was. And they asked me to come along. And they basically said to us, we feel that the number one issue when it comes to fighting for Israel, people bashing Israel, is campuses in North America. If you have an idea, come up with it. We came up with the idea of Hasbara fellowships. Aish Torah has been doing juicing fellowships for many years, bringing young people to Israel to learn about Judaism, learn about Israel. And we took that model and we said, let's use that model, but let's train them, give them the tools to go back and advocate for Israel. So I tell you this story because it was an amazing incident that happened that at some point I was sitting in the foreign ministry, and I was sitting with a man named Gideon Mir. He wound up becoming the Israeli ambassador to the United Kingdom. At this time, he was in the foreign ministry as the head of the Hasbara department. And one of those, sometimes something comes out of your mouth and you're like, I can't believe I just said that. You want to pour back in it? I had that experience when I was sitting with him. Gideon Mir was not a religious man. Foreign ministry is known to be, very left-wing, very bureaucratic, right? Very anti-religious. And I'm sitting here with this man, and they had agreed at that point to give us the funding to start Hasbara fellowships. They gave us the fund. Foreign Ministry of Israel gave us the money to start the first program. And by the way, parenthetically, that was the second time Noah slapped me when I came back and told him. He couldn't believe it. He said, the foreign ministry is giving Aish Torah the money to fight for the state of Israel? And what? Is a Mashiach is coming. It's clear. It's obvious, right? I don't know why I had to be on the receiving end of the slap, but it was clear, right? But this fellow in the foreign ministry says to me, so I said to him, which I realized I shouldn't have said that, I said, I have to ask you a question. Why are you doing this with Aish Torah? Right? There's APAC, and there's Hillel, and there's all these other organizations out there. Why are you working with Aish Torah to fight, to do this, to give us money to bring? He said, it's simple. He said, how can we expect young Jews in America to fight for Israel if they don't care about being Jewish? If they don't care about being Jewish, they're not going to fight for Israel, right? There's all types of debates now in America of young people. Do they support Israel? Do they not support Israel? Is Israel too right-wing? Are they just because of their policies? It has nothing to do with that, right? Jews are assimilated. The more assimilated you are, the less you're going to support Israel. I can see in Hasbara fellowships, about 20% of the students we bring come from some sort of modern Orthodox Shomer Shabbos home. But even the other 80%, their parents are Israeli, or they went to some sort of Jewish camp, or they went to some conservative school. They have some sort of shaykhus where they feel connected. The vast majority, they don't care. They don't care about being Jewish, so of course they don't care about Israel. So the foreign ministry said, if they don't care about being Jewish, why should they support Israel? And so for us, that I think was the reason. I think for Rabbi Noach, he felt on the simple level, Jews are being attacked. We have a responsibility to stand up for them. We have a responsibility to fight back. But he also realized that this is really the most front line of Kiruv. This is really the most front line, just that Jews can feel proud, that they don't feel that the one part of their Jewish identity is being bashed. We have to give them that pride so that they hopefully then can take responsibility for the Jewish people and come closer to really ultimately why are they fighting for it, right? We ask our students the question, okay, it's great. Imagine Israel was really the monster that they say it is. We're killing babies, and we stole the land, and we're racist, right? And so we ask them, would you still support this place? And you start to ask that question because they start to ask, wait a minute, why am I supporting this place? Is it because it's a democracy? Because we, I don't know, made cherry tomatoes or whatever, or is it because at the end of the day, this is my people that I'm responsible for. This is my connection to what this place really stands for. And through that, also not only playing on the defense, like I said, that we're trying to keep their Jewish identity close, but also can use it as a way to get them closer to Torah and mitzvahs as well. A lot more I could say. I don't know if I went over my time already. Take a question or not? Should we finish? Whatever. Okay. Anyone have any questions before I finish? One question. Yeah.
What does Hasbara mean?
So it's a great question. Hasbara, literally in Hebrew, lahasbir, means to explain. In Israel, Hasbara, the connotation is like diplomacy or PR. Some people say propaganda, but it's that's basically what it means. We took the name because there was a department of Hasbara in the foreign ministry. So when they gave us the funding, we said, okay, let's do that. We call it Hasbara Fellowships, like we had Jerusalem Fellowships. Basically, we train the students how to answer all those accusations that we hear on a daily basis, but also how to be proactive, how to go on the offense, how to reach out and engage Jews that are not involved or not engaged, get them to be proud, get them to come to Israel, and really also, like sort of how I said before, when the four of us went that time, I don't know how many we actually impacted, but it impacted us. That's really a lot of our agenda as well. We bring the students here, we brought in over 3,000 students, and we train them how to go back and impact thousands more, but really it's for them, that they themselves are impacted. We've had many, I don't even know the number, many alumni today that came to our program that are working for Aish Torah today, or working for other Jewish organizations, religious Kiruv organizations. So our frontline agenda is to be on campus, fight anti-Israel, but we see the peros that when people take responsibility and take responsibility for the Jewish people, and they start asking those questions, why am I taking responsibility? For many people, it brings them closer. Yeah.
What are some of the questions that you prepare them to answer?
So, do it on regular achas, but the main issues that we're facing, there's really three main accusations people have against Israel. Number one is that we're a foreign, imperial, European, colonial power that came and took the land from the Arabs that have been living here forever. Occupation, we came and stole their land. Number two is that the Israeli army is using excessive force, killing Palestinian babies, genocide, murder, all those types of things. And the third is racism. That Israel's a racist country. If you're not Jewish in this country, you're treated as, at best, a second-class citizen, but it's much worse than that. So those are the main issues, and there's, obviously they're all not true. They're not true, yes. Okay, I wish all tremendous hatzlacha. I was saying before, my time here, thank God I'm married, I have kids, so I can't say my time here was the highlight so far of my life, but it really was. I feel like I was born in this place. I wouldn't be where I am today in any way, personally, what I do, on a daily basis, my friends, my family, everything. If it wasn't for this place, so enjoy tremendous hatzlacha. Use all your time here. Use it to steig and to learn, but also to like Rabbi Noach said, spending a little time every day thinking about how we can help Klal Yisrael. And if we do that, tremendous things will come out of this place, as they have, and they continue